Record. Today is June 13th, 2019, and I am interviewing ThomasRigdon at the Newkirk Public Library. What motivated you to join the military?
Well, I was of military age in the late 60s and early 70s. And there was a draft then, draft meaning that they could select your name and you would enter the military service. And at that time, after you completed your basic training, it was very likely you would go to Vietnam. I was graduating from high school in 1966 and went to college that fall. And while there in Missouri, I was notified by the K County Draft Board to go get a physical, and in St. Louis, Missouri. So I took the bus to St. Louis, Missouri, and got a physical. This college that I attended offered ROTC, which was Reserve Officer Training Corps, and you could, if you went through the 4 years of it, you would be commissioned as an officer, as a second lieutenant. So I felt my choices were get drafted when I graduated, or enter the ROTC program, which is a good program, and be an officer when you get out. So, and also during the last 2 years of ROTC, they paid you money monthly, so that provides some income. Also, in return, I spent a summer at a summer camp, an Army summer camp. So partly because I thought it was a good way to enter the military, and partly maybe the alternative was to get drafted and go in as an enlisted man. I'd rather be in the military as an officer.
Tell me a little about your time in basic training.
My time?
In basic training.
Well, I had a summer camp between the junior and senior years at Fort Riley, Kansas, and that's where you learn the basic training things of marching and shooting a rifle and those kind of things. And then when I graduated, I went to the officer school for being a administrator, kept the records. I had the choice, or you make the choice, and the Army puts you where they need you, but I did not get into what we call the combat arms. I went into the more the administrative office work. And so that was my training, Fort Benjamin, Harrison, Indiana.
What was your primary job after training?
Well, it was, keeping records for personnel records. When a person enters the service, was assigned to a unit, we kept track where he was, who his next of kin were, what his age were, what his pay was, what his skills were, where he came from, and as far as what kind of training he had, and that's what we kept track of.
Where did you serve the majority of your time in service?
Well, the first assignment was Fort Riley, Kansas, and then after that I was deployed to Cam Ranh Bay in Vietnam, which is a supply center. There's a harbor there. The main forces there, the number of folks, personnel, were in transportation. They would truck supplies inland from the harbor. And again, I was assigned to a group that kept track of the personnel records for all these people that were driving trucks, loading unloading ships and loading trucks and doing those kind of things.
What rank are you most proud of to have earned and why?
What rank? Well, when I got out of the active duty, I was first lieutenant. And yes, I'm proud of that. Actually, then I also had a reserve commitment where I was a weekend once a month, or we called them, when we were in active duty, weekend warriors. But and I fulfilled the next 4 years of that, once a month going to reserve duty. Again, that was not, you get paid for that, and that was kind of good income when which was supplemented by the GI Bill. I went to law school after the service, and the GI Bill helped pay for that. That's an educational payment per month that if you stay in this, if you fulfill your commitment to your military commitment, then they will pay you to go to school. I mean, not the total amount to go to school, but they give you a monthly payment.
Which medal or citation are you most honored to have received and why?
Well, I did get, and I know I didn't even, I kind of forgotten about it. You asked about photos, so I brought that. Then they're pasted in there. My father did that, and I can't get them out, so I brought the whole thing. But I did get the Bronze Star for service. Now, don't confuse that with the more greater honor of getting the Bronze Star for valor, which is you get for wartime if you were in the fighting. But I did get the Bronze Star for service. Somehow the commanding officer must have liked me or something. I think I saved him a time or two.
Tell me about some of the special people you met.
Oh, you do meet a lot of interesting people in the service. And I intended to kind of keep up with them, and I haven't, a lot of them. There was a fellow in the unit I was in Vietnam from Binger, Oklahoma, and I tried one time to look him up, and I was unsuccessful of that. Then there was a crusty old lieutenant colonel who was enjoyable. Anyway, you get lots of people. Some things I can say here, some things I can't really. But another fellow from Long Island, New York, who was another junior officer like I was. So I can't really say I've kept up with them through the years, but remember them.
What was the best and worst military food you were served and why?
Well, the worst, I don't remember too many best, but the worst was, and I don't know whether I was a junior officer and the lieutenant, but I ordered, they were serving steaks, and this is in Vietnam, unusual to get steaks, cooking them out, and I said rare, and they gave me one that was about 30 seconds on one side and 30 seconds on the other. And I never requested a rare steak in the service after that. And often when I'm ordering nowadays, I think of that. Well, should I really say rare? Maybe not. But, so that was probably the worst meal, and best meal I don't know as I remember some of the ration deals out of those cans. They weren't too good. If you've interviewed other people, maybe they can tell you more about those, but those weren't real good.
Tell me a funny story you experienced that could only happen in the military.
Well, I saw that question. I don't know if I have one really. That could only happen in the military. I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't think of one. I'm sorry.
Were you deployed overseas, and if so, where and what and for what?
Well, as I said, I was in Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam, which is a beach area, wharf beach area, and it was over there, and it was safe. I wasn't in any combat situation. They did. The only thing even slightest, remotest combat part of it is if there was a ammo dump at an air base about 8 to 10 miles away, and they blew it up once, and so we all ran out and saw the big light and explosion in the sky, boom, boom. I mean, we didn't take cover. We ran out and looked at it. So, so that was, I was there and enjoyed it, and slept in a bed. A lot of people didn't. It was, got fed regularly, 3 meals a day, and it's pretty good place to be if you're going to be in the service.
What was the most demanding part about your deployment? It's kind of a little thing. I mean, it was 7 days a week. You didn't get a break. I do miss the first Christmas completely away from home. I missed that and realized kind of what that meant. Maybe the 7 day a week kind of thing. Long trip over there. You're kind of isolated. Thinking, gosh, those people back in the States are having a good time again. How did your military experience affect your life today?
Well, of course, appreciation for people in the service and what they do. I'm hesitant to say it to you because we all need to be patriotic, and you have to understand the context of the 1960s and the Vietnam War. It's kind of bred a little bit of distrust in the government that maybe shouldn't be there. We were told things, I think, politically that maybe weren't quite right. We were brought up to be kind of America, right or wrong, but you kind of developed some skepticism as to that. And you got to remember, when I was taking ROTC training, I had best friends when we were marching in the ROTC, the Friday afternoon march, that were on the side of the streets waving anti-war flags, and of course, immediately after we were all friends and all that. But there was a real division as to whether we should be there or not. And so I appreciate those people who can be super patriotic and do whatever the country wants. But I guess if you grew up in my area, you had just